What up, what up, what up, everybody? Welcome back to Today's the Day with Zack Andersen. Let's get into it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Today's the Day with Zack Andersen. What up, what up, what up? Welcome to Today's the Day. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Today's the Day. Much love to everybody. Today's the day. What up, what up, what up, everybody? Welcome back to Today's the Day. I am absolutely stoked for this episode. This is a super special one to me. Todd, first and foremost, thank you so much for coming out. I know how busy you are. I know how crazy it is for you to come down to the studio, take an hour, and kind of break it down with me, but I appreciate you big time. To real quick intro, Todd. This is Todd Pedersen, absolutely by far one of the most influential people in my lives, one of the biggest father figures I've had. And just a really, really, really close friend is what it's turned into. And just a big role model for me. So to intro him super, super quick, many of you guys already know most of this stuff and some of it you may not, but we're going to dive in depth into a lot of it and kind of get the story of the man himself. But Todd grew up in Idaho. He had 10 siblings, so he was one of 11 growing up in Idaho. Kind of a crazy upbringing, very, very independent coming up. And we've talked plenty prior to this podcast about you growing up and just kind of the situation, everything like that. Kind of a crazy childhood. At some point at age 14, you ended up in a boys' home. And then fast forwarding, you ended up serving an LDS mission and got back from your mission. You founded a pest control company in 92. That was your first summer knocking. And then by 99 is when you founded what is now Vivint, right? Which is now one of Vivint's largest employers with 7,000 or more employees right now. There's over 1.8 million customers, and that brings in over $1 billion a year in revenue, which is just unreal. You've taken multiple companies public. You were also the founder of Vivint Solar. You were just recently inducted in the 2021 Silicon Slopes Hall of Fame. The list literally goes on and on, but some very notable things.
I got a fake degree from a university.
Oh, did you? Which university?
I love UVU, by the way. But they didn't earn it. They gave it to me. So I should have you call me Dr. Peterson.
So you're a doctor.
Doctorate.
You have a doctorate?
Yeah, I do.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Dr. Todd Pedersen.
I even spoke at commencement. It was pretty rad.
Did you have to do the whole thing, the program, or they just gave it to you?
No, I sat through the program.
I mean, like the whole doctorate
I sat through
program.
The whole commencement. Yes, the whole program.
You mean the graduation program is what you're saying?
It was like 2 hours, man. It was tough.
Dr. Todd Pedersen. You also, some very notable things on the other side of it. You founded Vivint Gives Back, which has raised over $20 million. Your name's on the Peterson Tower at IHC's Utah Valley Hospital for your $10 million donation. And then very recently, you just went and donated, you and your wife, Andy, went and donated $35 million to Primary Children's Hospital. So just insane. And the list, literally, I could have written 3 pages on that and it would have gotten really boring just hearing me talk. But I mean, yeah, first and foremost, man, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to go dive deeper into a few things.
Glad to be here.
So let's start like very, very, very beginning. Like growing up, you grew up in Idaho. Where in Idaho did you grow up?
Grew up in Idaho Falls. I was actually born in Seattle. My dad was going to orthodontic school, so I was born downtown Seattle, but moved when I was 2 years old. So which is funny. Even today, when people say, "Hey, where are you from?" If I'm out and about, I say Idaho.
For sure.
I don't know. I just can't lose the roots because I really did love just the entire experience and, everything that being a part of Idaho and a family in Idaho and a kid in Idaho.
You were there through high school, right?
Yeah, all the way through high school.
Okay. And then growing up in Idaho, there was 11 of you. So you were one of 11. You had 10 siblings, correct?
10 siblings.
Where do you fall?
Fourth oldest boy. So I was kind of like a little bit stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
There's positives and negatives probably to that from a upbringing perspective, but kind of right stuck in the middle. But I'll say that I don't have 11 kids. I loved growing up in a family of that size. It was truly amazing.
What is that like? Like, because I have a mixed family, older. Now I have a ton of siblings. Like, what is that like growing up being one of 11?
I mean, I don't think we didn't really know anything else, but look, we had to learn how to get along. We didn't have a big home and we didn't have a lot of bedrooms. I mean, most of my upbringing, I had 3 roommates.
Yeah.
Double bunk beds. And but it was also mayhem at night, the pillow fights and jumping across the bunk beds. And, sharing one closet about as wide as that shelf right there. I mean, you just learned how to get it done, in a crowded space and
make it work.
Find your place, in life, which you kind of had to do. So
Absolutely.
I loved it.
No, I love that. And then were you pretty close to your siblings growing up and your parents, or how was like your family situation, your dynamic there? Were you guys pretty close?
I'd say no, I actually wasn't. I grew up in a family as LDS. I wasn't definitely not against it or anything like that, but I just wasn't that into it growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were, and are, I guess my dad, he's dead. So I think he still is. I don't know.
I would assume more than ever.
Assume more than ever. I just wasn't all that into it. And I was probably, looking back as a parent now, I was probably a pretty selfish kid. I just did what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
The cool part was my parents, I don't know how, again, thinking back on raising someone like me as a parent,
mm-hmm.
They gave me a lot of latitude, like almost complete latitude. They allowed me to make my own decisions. They didn't force me to do anything.
Yeah.
They didn't force me to live any certain way, but they also allowed me to deal with my own consequences, which I had plenty of them.
Absolutely. So when you talk about that, I guess that's kind of like an intro and explanation into when we were talking about it before. I didn't even know this about you, actually, and I feel like I would have known this or would have heard about it at some point. You ended up at age 14, you ended up in a boys' home.
Yeah.
So ending up in a boys' home, I can only imagine that means you're probably not the easiest person to be raising in the first place. But what were you like? How did that happen? And what was that?
Look, it was called Lowell Benion's Boys' Home in Wyoming. I think thinking about myself, as a younger kid, I just was always super active, and sometimes it wasn't active in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
I had friends that I connected with pretty young that we were, creative in everything that we did, and it always kind of ended up leading to trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was one of those things where I think my parents and probably, others around me felt like it was, wake up call, get me into a place that would give me a wake up call.
Yeah. Or
things could have gotten much worse, which funny enough, they actually did get worse for me, as far as
how so.
I got into everything, man. I was a kid that, I wasn't afraid to try anything. I was, first time I got caught drinking, I was 12 years old. Dean, he's 13.
That's remarkable.
I mean,
could you imagine?
I was 12 the first time I got caught drinking. And that's kind of just who I was. The first time the police showed up to my house because of me, I was in second grade. I still remember sitting at dinner. I hope my mom doesn't watch this. She's probably tried to forget all this stuff, but sitting at dinner, knock at the door. We're all eating dinner. My mom asked me to come into the foyer, and 2 police officers were standing there. I was in second grade.
What could you have possibly done?
I got in a really bad fight with a kid across the street.
In second grade?
Yeah, second grade, because he was picking on my friend Corey Zanger, who was kind of one of those kids.
You had Corey's back.
I had Corey's back. So
absolutely.
And I was creative.
Yeah.
Did things that I always, I thought with good intentions and, trying to have fun, but man, we always got crazy. And I will say though, going to this Lowell Benion's Boys' Home, there were probably 100, youth there from all over the country. Not, I think I was the only one from Idaho.
Mm.
And they were kind of the worst of the worst, like just in trouble with the law, like I had been, causing problems. Parents didn't know what to do with them necessarily. It was a stopping point before maybe going to juvenile hall or juvenile detention.
Yeah.
That was actually a pretty incredible experience, because really had to figure out quickly where you were positioned, how to position yourself, how to team up, because you had to have your partnership.
Yeah.
Big time, because you had to, back in those days, anything went at those places. I mean, our counselors beat on us, and
yeah,
I've never come out publicly like, other people have, but they literally would beat on us.
Yeah.
It was abusive. It was crazy, but in some ways, I learned a lot.
So beneficial in some ways, even though it was a lot of negative.
I was one of the younger, 14, I think was the youngest they allowed, up to 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Our counselors were, 18, 19 to 24, who knows what. And
Yeah.
it was kind of mayhem all the time. So you had to kind of figure out your place and still be you, but discover how to lead or be led. One of the two, you can make those choices.
Yeah.
But it was a crazy experience. And I literally, through that period of time, I don't think I talked to my parents once.
How long was that?
It was like 4 months. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
crazy. And so then coming out of that, what was that? You came out of that, went back to Idaho then, right?
Went back
and what was the change? Did it do what it was supposed to do? Like,
honestly, it made me more creative. It truly did. So
got you.
I didn't straighten up per se, but
yeah.
And when I say straighten up here, this is an important fact. Like, and I don't even know how this is possible, but I never, some kids are getting in trouble all the time. They're angry and they're lashing out at their parents and all that stuff. That didn't happen in my household. I only had words with my mom one time. And I think I was a junior in high school. Literally, through all the trouble I got in, my parents never raised their voices to me. They didn't ground. They just allowed, again, they allowed me to suffer my own consequences and figure it out. But
yeah,
my mom said something derogatory about a girl that I was hanging out with, and I got super upset with her. And this is how cool my parents were. She came back about 15 minutes later, and she's like, "You're right. I was in the wrong. I shouldn't have said something like that about someone."
Oh wow,
that's how rad my parents are. My dad, my dad, I was probably, these are just thoughts coming to my head, but my dad, when I was probably, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old, something in that range, I loved basketball. I was out in the driveway in the wintertime, and there's a couple little spots of cement I could dribble on and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have an indoor basketball court like the Petersons over there in Orem.
Yeah.
That's
the indoor in the basement.
Yeah. Anyway, I was out there shooting, and leather, this is how old I am, leather basketball shoes were just new. And I was out there shooting in my Nike leather shoes. They're like $90. Mm-hmm. And my dad comes home from work, and he had never not that he was never upset with me. He just didn't raise his voice.
Yeah.
And never really showed that he was upset. He got super mad. Do you understand how much time it takes me to earn the money to pay for those shoes? How disrespectful. I can't believe you're doing this. Brand new pair of shoes. You're ruining them. And I was like, well, because, I wasn't used to my dad getting mad.
Yeah.
So I'm like, do I go inside? Do I keep, shooting? What do I do? My dad comes out like 5 minutes later, and he's like, I just, told your mom how upset I was about your shoes. She told me you paid for those shoes with your own money. And he literally said to me right then, he goes, I will never yell at you again. And when I say yell, he raised his voice pretty loud, and he was firm. Never again did my dad raise his voice to me.
That is so crazy.
Rad.
Where did they get that? Like, where did that's so the reason that's so opposite of 90% of parenting styles I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Where do they I
don't know. My look, and this is, when I think about myself, I think about, think about your roots. We are, for good or for bad, like part of our upbringing is part of it's who we are. But I think also our DNA, who our parents are.
Yeah.
And that doesn't, it doesn't make us, but it definitely informs who we could be or what we're like. But my mom grew up outside of Idaho on a dry farm. And you guys don't even know what dry farming is.
No idea.
Dry farming is the poorest form of farming. You have land, usually you lease it, but you have no water rights. So the only water you get to water your crops with is rain. So if it rains, it's called dry farming.
So if it doesn't rain,
you're broke. And my mom grew up poor, destitute poor. In Idaho, in Idaho. Yeah. Alcoholic father, very physically abusive, very rough circumstances. Incredible hurt. I didn't actually know him. He died, in a drunk driving accident. But, her reality was that was her life. And so I think part of what we had going on, my dad was an orthodontist, and he was a good man. He was good to my mom, and he was helpful. And so why would she ever complain if, one of her kids was getting into a little bit of trouble?
Yeah.
So she was like, man, I've seen bad. This is not bad. This is like, we have things good. I think.
Like her perspective
Yeah.
was probably so positive
Yeah. And
towards
then
it.
my dad's dad was Danish, and his dad was a tailor, like made suits, and they were incredibly poor, and they didn't have much, but what they had was, well, my grandpa Eddie was like, if you said, hey, who's your lifelong best friend? My dad's dad.
Yeah.
Eddie Peterson. Like the most positive attitude and the most like amazing like personality that was like, it drew everyone in a way that was incredible. But he was a tailor, and so everyone in town knew him. He became the mayor, but he was a gentleman that he had polio as a child. He was born prematurely,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't think he'd make it. And his mom like kind of nurtured him to health. He was born, I think it was 2.5 pounds back in whatever early, I don't know, was that in the 30s probably or something? And had polio. Then he got ran over by a car when he was 12 and was practically crippled. But every day, anytime anyone would ask him, and I was around him all the time, hey, Eddie, how are you doing? And he would always say, I've never had a bad day, no matter what. Like, and he had plenty of bad days, growing up.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. My parents just, they grew up Idahoans.
Yeah.
And, everything was good and everything was fine. And, nothing was insurmountable as far as, challenges and whatnot. So
that's way cool.
Just good people.
Yeah. It's way cool. Like really cool perspective to approach problems with, I think. Yeah. Really cool. So fast forwarding there, you get back to Idaho after being 14. You'd been like a troublemaker growing up, creative, as you say, super active. And then you end up serving an LDS mission. So 2 years fully dedicated to just your church.
Yeah.
Where was the transition from 14-year-old to when you served when you were 19?
Well, so I kind of went off the rails, truthfully. Like it was anything and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get, too graphic for the kids here, but I mean, I was, I worked at a pizza joint, and that's what they sold pizza and joints. But I mean, I never thought about that, but it was, like kind of anything and everything.
Yeah.
And so even up until the time I was going to go on a mission, I didn't really believe in God, and I didn't believe in God, not really. And so I kept up the lifestyle, but I will say I got straight A's in school.
Mm-hmm.
I played sports. So it was weird. I was like high functioning kind of wild kid.
Yeah.
I had a relationship with my parents. I wasn't strained because there wasn't much there, because I don't think they understood how to deal with me. So they kind of compartmentalized me a little bit.
Yeah.
And I had 10 siblings that were just really great people.
Yeah.
Very, I don't want to talk, obedient, and, they were good, just good people.
Yeah.
And then there was me. When I was the summer after my senior year, my parents went on vacation, and I don't remember now if they just didn't invite me with the rest of the family, but me and one of my sisters stayed behind. I probably just didn't get invited, but I don't know.
Thinking back to it,
I've made up in my mind that I had a job and I needed to stay on for the job, but I think I just didn't get invited. But anyway, so I stayed behind, and we had chores, and I did chores, and I helped out. But my dad was like, hey, make sure you mow the yard when we're gone. So I'm like, great, I'll do that. So Saturday morning I got up, it's Idaho, nice sunny, warm day in Idaho. I got up, I don't know how early it was, but it was early-ish. And we had a pretty big yard, and we had a riding lawnmower. So I went out into the garage and to just go check on the gas and, get the lawnmower out and get the edging stuff out. So I go out in the garage. Do you not know this? Have you ever heard this?
I've never heard this.
So anyway, it's gonna sound crazy.
That's okay. If you're comfortable sharing it,
no,
I absolutely want to hear it.
1,000%. It happens. So, it happened.
Let's hear it.
So I go out in the garage, and we had like a 4-car garage. And I still remember there was 1 car in the garage and then 3 empty. Then we had bicycles and a couple motorcycles and, snowblower and stuff stored. It was a really big garage, really deep, and had a lifted, piece in the back. Anyway, I walk over to the lawnmower, and I went down to unscrew the cap to see if there's gas, enough gas, and if I needed to fill it up. And a cold wind went straight through the garage. And this is summertime, like super cold wind, like straight, and it kind of went like straight through me. Weird, like
really weird.
And by the way,
fully sober,
didn't party the night before. Fully sober, right through me. And I'm like, whoa, that's weird. The weirder part was there were no windows open, no doors open, no garage doors open. Wind straight through. And I'm like, and literally I thought, well, am I high or something, or what's going on?
Yeah.
And, but no, I wasn't. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to ignore that, and I'm going to keep going here. So I leaned back down to unscrew the cap because I hadn't done it yet. And right then, I could hear like hundreds of people laughing at me, like just literally laughing at me. And I mean, hair on the back, and I had, a full blown awesome mullet. I mean,
I believe that.
Like for real.
I believe that.
Call them mullets, but I was scared to a point where it's like, it's like, what is this?
To the point that you remember.
I'm like,
every
okay,
detail.
I'm going to leave. Something's going on here. I don't like it. I'm getting out of here. And right then, the world turned inside out. Like it snapped on me. Like, have you seen, what's that show called? I've only seen a couple of episodes. The kids watch it. It's the Inside Out or the Upside Down. What's that? Stranger Things.
Oh, Stranger Things.
So
the Upside Down.
I went into the Upside Down. The only thing I could tell you that you would say, oh, it was like the earth, the world turned inside out. I could still see everything. Like that's a can. It was a can, but it was a different perspective. Yeah. It's like it was like a totally different. It was like the inside, what do you call it? Upside down.
The Upside Down.
Yeah. I went into that. So, it like peeled inside out or upside down, whatever they want to call it. So I'm like, I'm basically like, something's happening bad. This is not right. I'm leaving. I've got to get out of here or I'm done. I was like, I'm going to get killed or something.
Yeah.
Like destroyed. So I decided in my mind to go inside, but I hadn't done it yet. I'm like thinking through this, like, what do I do here?
Yeah.
And something grabbed me from behind, grabbed my shoulder and physically pulled back on my right shoulder. And I was still holding on to the handle of this riding lawnmower, pulled me back like forcefully. And I turned back. I mean, I'm scared. I don't even want to look really, but
yeah,
I turned back around. There's nothing there.
What in the world?
Yeah. So, anyway, I'm like, oh crap. And I kind of came back around this way. I see a hand this time on my shoulder, and it pulls me back and spins me around. Like it pulls me so hard, it like physically pulled me around. And I'm like, but still nothing's there. So I went to turn around again, and there was this being standing there, right face to face with me. 2 feet from me, grinning at me, smirking. I'd say smirking, like I've got you.
What the hell?
Yeah. Yes.
So that was like, you're like,
I'm like, well, for me, and again, I don't know if people are religious or not religious, but I'm like, because I didn't believe in God at that point. I'm like, that's Satan, or whatever evil is, whatever you want to call it. That's Satan, and I'm done.
Yeah.
He's got me, and I'm done.
Oh
and I literally thought life was over.
Oh my gosh.
So,
what do you do with that information? Like at that age, what do you do? What do you do with that information you just graduated high school? What do you do with that?
Scared me. I mean, stone straight. Like I didn't dare. So I mustered I'm like, I didn't want to die. I thought I was going to die. That's all I could think, because I'm going to die. And that he this thing, this personage or whatever owns me. It's over. So I saw the garage door, the side door entering the house, and everything I had ran towards it, and in running, these are split second things happening. I'm like, if I try to open the door, he's going to pull me back in because he's going to get me. So I hit the garage door opener. And when the light came in from the outside, the world went back to normal. It was like an explosion.
World.
So I couldn't stand up. I couldn't move. I still remember laying face on the cement halfway in the sun, and I couldn't move. Don't know how long. A minute, 20 minutes. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Time meant nothing, Anyway, I went to walk inside. From the outside, we had kind of a mud room. You could enter from the garage or an outside patio. And I'm walking in the house. My sister, Kristen, was walking out at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts screaming, "What happened to you?" And I couldn't talk. I couldn't even make a word come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And she was screaming. However I looked, scared her.
What?
So, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
So what did I do with that information? I didn't sleep for a couple of months. I showered with my eyes open with shampoo running down my eyes, burning them. I didn't care. Because every time I thought if I closed my eyes, he'd be there. I was not scared.
Gosh.
I didn't dare tell anyone because I was so scared.
Oh my gosh.
But it scared me straight. Like didn't dare drink, nothing.
That's so
and I was
nutty.
like, oh, there's that's negative and evil. There's got to be, good and positive.
And that was when you started looking at life that way.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I want to be Mormon now. It wasn't like that.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a process. I was baptized when I was like 8, but anyway, but it did end up, I ended up thinking, okay, this is real. I had to look at this a little bit more.
Holy crap. I never knew that.
Yeah,
that's honestly crazy.
Kind of crazy, huh?
Yeah, very, very crazy, I would say. Holy shit.
Yeah.
So then moving on from that, obviously not easy, but moving on from that, through the transition, you ended up going and serving a 2-year mission. You served the full mission in Dominican Republic.
Yep.
Right. And you've always spoken pretty highly of that as far as what you learned from it, right?
Look, I mean, so for me in life, when I did something, I wanted to do it well. And with some of that information I had, I'm like, there's good and evil out there. And look, everyone looks at it differently and thinks differently. And I think about it the way I think about it, but I'm like, I want to, this message that I have it resonates. It's good. It's about family. It's about, being happy and stuff like that, making good choices. And so when I went on my mission, it was every ounce of everything I had every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say I killed myself for 2 years.
That's awesome.
I left nothing on the table.
Yeah.
And through that, learned how to lead and how to, really work hard. When we're under our parents' wing and, they're doing, even though, we had to be a little bit self-sufficient, but in that deal, you make your own choices. You don't have to work hard. You don't have to have a good attitude. You don't have to put the time. You can waste a lot of, that. Yeah. Like this job.
Yeah.
Full freedom, which is why I love what you do. Full freedom to work as hard as you want. And you reap those rewards. You get everything out of it that you put into it at some point.
Yeah.
Same with the mission. So for me, that was like really the point where I'm like, okay, when I set my mind to something, I can do it at a level that maybe other people are unwilling to. Not that they couldn't, but they're unwilling to. I had that ability to step up and outwork and out attitude other people from that perspective.
Which has for sure affected the rest of your life since then. So then after mission, you got home, you ended up in Provo at that point, correct? And you were...
It's not a beer, it's a water. Liquid Death, by the way.
Tell Liquid Death to sponsor us already, will you please?
Hey, sponsor. Let's see. I could have invested in this company, it's probably 4 years ago. It was like $10 million valuation. I think they're going public.
I believe so.
They had like 300 or 400 billion. So I missed out on that one.
You missed out a little bit. And you still drink one every day.
You see
that
my
your
house.
fridge is fully stocked with them.
So
that's amazing.
Well, I know the man. You should tell me you want to be sponsored. The guy that tried to get me to invest, Peter. He's a buddy of mine from Southern California. He'll hook you guys up.
So now everyone heard that. If we aren't sponsored soon,
Peter,
it's on Todd. So Peter, hook it up.
You owe me because you didn't force me to invest. If you see this, oh, right here, hello. Anyway, yeah. So, and by the way, another interesting side note: the first time I ever flew on an airplane was on my mission
to the DR.
I'd never flown on an airplane before.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't know a lot. I'm loving this. I'm eating it up. So I hope everyone loves it as much. So then got home, and I want a really clear understanding of like your upbringing into what you've already gone and created at Vivint. Because a lot of people see where you're at. No one knows this stuff. And this stuff is so key, in my opinion, because it's so relatable. Like, frankly, most of like people in your position sometimes don't seem relatable to a lot to the masses. But when you hear exactly how you got where you got, that's where it's relatable, and that's where it's super eye-opening and inspiring. So then you first time on a plane was to your mission. You ended up in Provo then, right? Going to BYU, or what was that?
Yeah, but there's the most important part of it.
Okay, hit me.
I get off my mission. Well, so one thing that's really important, I really do believe how I think about life and trying to treat people and view, the world and my position in the world comes from my parents. My mom and dad would never, they do not care that Vivint Solar sold for $5.5 billion, that Vivint sold for 5 to 2.8 billion. They don't care.
Yeah.
They just don't care. They care that I worked hard and I tried to do a good job, leading people and living up to my word and stuff. But my mission president was the one that inspired me to think about business, being a business person.
I've heard this, yeah. And how
Gary
so?
Sorensen. So we had a weird relationship. When I looked at some of the leaders on my mission, and I'm not going to say I didn't respect them, but I didn't respect their work ethic. Because for me, I was there just to work.
Yeah.
I didn't care about P days. I didn't care about anything but working every minute of every day. And I had a blast doing it, by the way. It wasn't like I was some weird robot. I had a blast.
Yeah.
But my mission president wanted me to, work in the office as an AP. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that because your APs are lazy and they don't teach and they don't baptize. So no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
He's like, what?
Because AP on your mission, AP is like the
assistant to the president.
That's the pinnacle.
Yeah, you're VP of sales of Vivint. So anyway, I ended up doing it and working with him, and we became like lifelong best friends. Then he was a 40-something-year-old man, retired very young, and he taught me about business. We talked about investing. We talked about how to maximize capital, like creating capital and then maximize capital. You don't learn that in high school, especially in Idaho. Definitely not in college, but he was like my mentor in business. So I already had, when I came home, the intention of building companies. I thought that it was going to be an orthodontist because that's what my dad did. And I'm like, what else do? I don't know.
Yeah.
And my dad could provide. He provided fine for our family. Well, anyway, I come home from my mission, and a day after I was released, you have to get released from, the calling.
Yeah.
I'm sitting at a table with my mom and 2 of my sisters, and my sister, Michelle's like, hey, so, what's the plan now? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to start an import-export business into the Dominican Republic because if you bought used cars here, they sold for way more down there. I had this big business plan. And my mom and my sister started crying. And they're like, you haven't changed a bit. You just got home from your mission and you're talking about making money. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not a mission. In my mind, I'm like,
I did my work. Yeah.
I'm not a missionary anymore.
Yeah.
It's time to get down to business. So I was super confused. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And in their mind, they're like, well, you haven't changed. You're still
same old.
How come you're not a spiritual giant? You're talking about money. But my mission president was telling me, like, you need to go make a ton of money so you can impact thousands of people's lives.
Yeah.
And you can donate to hospitals, and you can give wherever you need to give, and not just money, but time and energy and leadership ability, and lift people up around you. That's why.
Yeah.
But I didn't say that to them. I was just like, well, this is weird.
Yeah.
Now, another weird fact that I didn't think about all that much until like a little later in life, but I only wrote home 9 times on my mission. That was the first year. I didn't write home one time my second year.
Oh, wow.
And now I'll
Because
tell
you're
you,
just fully consumed.
with my companions, I didn't want to hear about home, talk about home, know about their homes. I didn't want to know what they did in high school, who they date. I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get derailed at all. So that was like law to me.
Yeah.
And then part of that was cut everyone off. I had a girlfriend when I left. I wrote her one time on my mission, never wrote her again.
Yeah.
And so I
just like unwavering focus.
I know that's with the parents, my parents, that's probably really selfish. But for me, I was like, I'm giving this 100%. And for me, that was part of it. I was like, I wrote off my life. So I know my parents were thinking, he's screwing around on his mission because he's not writing freely letters and these big, whatever experiences and whatnot. But I was killing it.
Yeah.
I didn't have time. I didn't have time. I didn't take P days. I took P day my first 4 months of my mission and never again. Just didn't do it. I didn't need the time. I had a maid that cleaned our clothes and made food for us. Like, why did I need a P day?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's some of the background. My dad comes home from work, which he never does. Middle of the day, he's an orthodontist. He has patience.
Yeah.
So my dad pulls me back into my parents' bedroom. He's like, hey, man, we're done with you. And I'm like, okay. It's like, you flunked out of your freshman year at BYU. And, you screwed off your whole mission. And I'm like, I'm super confused.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean I flunked out of my freshman year? He's like, your sister Lynette, my sister ratted me out when I was a freshman. Her and I took a bunch of classes together, and she told my parents I never went to class, which I didn't.
Yeah.
But I had like AP physics. I had, I had all the classes already in high school. My freshman year was a breeze. I got a 3.87.
Yeah.
I didn't get a 4.0, but I got a 3.87. And I'm like, Dad, what? I got a 3.87. He's like, well, your sister said you never went to class. I'm like, I didn't need to. Like, it was so easy.
Yeah.
I just could waltz in and take tests and didn't have to show up to class. So I just skied. It's like that. She said you skied every day. I'm like, and I did.
Now your dad's confused.
So
like,
no, but it didn't matter because he still was under the impression that I screwed off my whole mission. And he's like, you're done. We're done with you. Do you have a place to live in? This is like 2 days after my mission. I got home.
Yeah.
I'm like, Dad, I just got home. Like, he's like, do you have a job? I'm like, how would I have a job? Like, well, I'm taking you down tomorrow morning. You got to find a place to live because we're done. Yeah, we're not helping you. You're done. And my parents had like little trust accounts for my siblings for like, reasonable car and help with tuition and rent. Not everything. They had to work in the summers and help.
Yeah.
He was like, we're done with you. And I'm like, okay. I mean, what do I say? Like, please no.
Yeah.
I didn't have that personality, obviously. So the next morning, with my one pair of tennis shoes, a couple beat up, pants for my mission, and a few t-shirts and a little bag. When I say not a dollar, not 25 cents in my pocket. My dad drove me down to Provo and dropped me off at one of my ex-missionary companions' doorsteps who had just got married a month earlier. Basement, just like this, little taller ceilings, boys. We can at least walk around. We can walk around without Zack hitting his head on the ceiling, but drops me off. I knock on the door, and Brent, by the way, his name was Brent Bartholio. He had been my companion. I had called him and I said, hey man, I'm coming down there. I've got to live with you. He's like, do not step foot on my porch. You are not staying with me. I just got married. You're not staying with us. I'm like, Brent, I don't have a job, no money. I'm coming. Now, so I show up. Fortunately, Susan opens the door. And I'm like, hey, I'm Todd Pedersen. I was, Elder Peterson. She's like, I know who you are. I'm like, I have to live with you. I don't have anywhere to live. My dad had already left.
Oh, poor Brent and Susan.
So they had a little couch, a little kitchenette, and a 1-bedroom and very, very thin walls. And I lived with them for 3 months.
Right after they got married.
No car. Oh, it was horrible.
You better have sent them on a vacation.
Oh,
you better have sent them on a vacation now.
I've done a thing or two to make it work. But that couch looks nice. The couch I was on, not nice. I still remember an Afghan and a hard little pillow. That's what I slept with.
Keep in mind, he said thin walls.
Thin walls.
He said thin walls.
Horrible. I mean, just horrible. So I tried to stay out late and, all that stuff and give them some, space or whatever. But morning one is a really important day in my life with the Bartholomews. Wake up and I'm hungry. Like, and I was still like confused that my family just cut me off. Like,
yeah,
like emotionally and not just financially.
Yeah.
They were super mad. I hadn't processed why. I'm like, it is what it is. I'll figure it out. So I wake up, I'm starving and, they're sleeping still and I don't want to wake them up. So I'm sitting on the couch and there's no cell phones back then. There's nothing. There's no computers.
Yeah.
So I'm not like searching the web, like, reading something, some interesting fact or TikToking or whatever. I'm just sitting there waiting for them to wake up. They wake up finally. And I also was raised in a family where you don't get in the fridge, even at your own home, without asking. So
yeah,
I'm just starving. They get up and Susan starts making omelets. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks good. But I wasn't raised to say, could I have one?
Yeah.
So I sat there until she asked. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. But she had put cheese on. Is this weird detail that I remember? Like she was putting cheese on Brent's omelet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'd love to have cheese on my omelet. But I didn't say that to him. And she finally asked if I did. I'm like, oh, I'd love to have cheese on my omelet.
They are saints. They're saints.
And so anyway, I remember sitting there. I'm a beggar. Like I was a beggar. Like I had nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing to offer, nothing to give them, no money to pay rent, no money to buy food, no car, nothing. I couldn't pay for soap for the laundry. I had nothing. And I remember sitting there thinking, I'm going to get myself out of this hole.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have the ability at some point. I remember it burned a hole in my chest. I'm going to get to a point where I can take care of people.
Yeah.
Just like they're taking care of me. Like I will get didn't know how.
Yeah.
I will make that happen. This is going to happen because I had this like intense desperation in my soul to like succeed in life.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what that meant at that point. But and this does not mean that I wasn't appreciative, like beyond appreciative.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, I have nothing to offer this world right now. Nothing.
Yeah.
So, and then literally for the next months, Susan, I got a job pretty quickly because I did construction in high school. I got a job sheetrocking. But she had to take me to work and pick me up, and she had to and before I got paid, make my lunch for me. I was a beggar.
Oh my
I had
word.
nothing, zero. And then by, I don't know, like 3 months or so in, like I started having a little bit of money because I had to pay for my own school and I wanted to go to school.
Yeah.
And I also wasn't raised in a family where debt was not an option.
Yeah.
So I didn't even go try to get school debt. I didn't try to get Pell Grants, anything.
Yeah.
So I had to save my money for tuition, books, for rent. Like I didn't spend any money. And then I got a car. And I remember so many weeks where I was budgeting every last dollar I had to make sure I had enough for school books, tuition, everything. There was a little gas station right on the west side of BYU campus.
Yeah.
And this place, it wasn't a gas station, but it was next to one. They had 10-cent hot dogs. And I lived off those damn hot dogs for months.
10 cents?
10 cents per hot dog.
That's not good meat. Whatever it was not good meat.
It fed me, and that's what I ate.
That's amazing.
Because that's what I could afford. And I don't even know how many I had, but you could have 5 or 6 of them, you're full. And it was like,
Yeah.
for less than $1, you're eating and having a drink.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's how I started.
So right there, right? What part of the year was that? Right before summer? Like your first summer was.
So this was summer of 1990.
Okay, summer of 1990.
I got home from my mission spring of 1990.
Got you.
So the pest control marketing company didn't start till 92.
Got you. So you lived 2 years like that, where you were just working either sheetrocking or other jobs.
So sheetrocking. Brett and I ended up. We didn't have a contractor's license, so we started sheetrocking under a guy named Claire Call. It's called Call Wall. We hung the sheetrock because the job that I had, the guy that we were working for, Brett and I both, it was never on time. He wouldn't have the screws and the equipment and the ladders and scaffolding ready ever.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, screw this. We can't make money unless we hang sheetrock. So we kind of started our own thing and started working under this Claire Call. And then in the process, I'm like, I want to make more money, work more hours.
Mm-hmm.
I started a house cleaning business, got a business license. My mom, one of my old neighbors, had moved to Utah. She was divorced. And she was one of my mom's best friends. And I knew she cleaned homes for a living.
Yeah.
And so I called her and I'm like, hey, do you make good money doing this? And she's like, I'll get paid like, $35 an hour. And back then, minimum wage was $3.75 or something like that. I'm like, dang, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So I grew up cleaning. My parents made us clean, dishes, mop, all the stuff, cleaning bathrooms. But I said, can I come work for you for like a week for free and watch how you do it? Because you're in Salt Lake. I'm going to do the same thing here in Provo, which she let me do it. Showed me all the products, where to buy all the, the industrial, supplies and whatnot. And I got a business license. I went up on the Provo bench, actually right here, right above us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these are all the rich people. Like, I'm going to go knock on their doors and clean their homes. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, I have a house cleaning business. Here's my flyer. And I got clients doing that. And I made a ton of money, ended up having to hire multiple crews. But we cleaned, 60, 70 homes a week.
That's amazing.
With me and my crews. And then I also sheetrocked.
That is so dope.
Look, I was willing to do anything it took to, not just pay my bills.
To never, ever be in that situation again.
Ever.
Yeah. That's so sick. So then 2 years of that, and then kind of the start of what you're very, very, very well known for, where you mentor thousands of people and you're a huge example. The door-to-door, like you are like the godfather of door-to-door, 1,000%. Anyone who disagrees, there are thousands of people that would back that. Starting in 92, then you went out with a pest control marketing company, right?
Well, it was us. It was me.
It was you. So
this is what happened. So there's this guy named Scott Harmon who actually had, like 6 or 8 people that worked for him selling pest control. A couple of my buddies sold for him, but it was like over the phone in the summer of 91 in Sacramento. And they made like 10 grand and 12 grand, which back then was like $100,000.
Yeah.
In 91.
Yeah.
They come back from the summer and I'd fallen off a scaffolding and I'd hurt my right shoulder. I didn't have insurance, so I couldn't get it fixed. I now have metal shoulders, but that was my first injury. And anyway, my buddy Michael was like, hey, Todd, we didn't even work hard. You work your butt off. You'd kill it doing this.
Mm-hmm.
You should go talk to Scott. So I drove to Sacramento to meet with Scott. Went through this little training thing that they had to take some test. And at the end of it, and I passed the test and everything. At the end, he's like, I'm not going to hire you. You wouldn't do a good job. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, I just don't think you do a good job. I'm like, no, like I sheetrock and clean toilets, getting myself through school. I pay all my bills. Yeah, sorry. No, I'm not going to hire you. So I didn't stop right there. I kept going at it and he still said no. And he sent me on my way back to Provo. I drove back to Provo and I literally called this guy like 10 more times. Scott, he owned this little pest control company. Or did sales for this little pest control company. And I said, Scott, I'm coming to work for you. You don't understand. I will transform your business. Like you've never met someone that works harder than I do and is more determined ever. Sorry, Todd, that's a no. Click.
Oh my gosh.
So
these are all such blessings in disguise. Such big blessings in disguise.
So my friend Wayne Schlosser, who I was just talking to yesterday, actually, his mom, he was one of my roommates. His mom lived in Danville, California. And so I said, hey, Wayne, will you have your mom send me all of the pest control? There's no email, no Google. Send me all the pest control companies out of the yellow pages in kind of Northern California. She mailed them to me, and I started one by one calling them. Todd Pedersen from Idaho, going to school in Utah. I want to come sell for you next summer in California. No, we don't hire part-time. What are you talking about? That sounds random. Why would we ever do that?
Yeah.
Then we'll have to give you benefits and we have to fire you, and it's all weird. And no, I called every single one of them, every branch, every company, everyone. And it was no straight across the board. Called back through anyone that I was like, yeah, they weren't rude. Call them back.
Yeah.
No, not doing it. Finally, and I'm trying to fast forward because I don't want to, I don't know what else we're going to talk about. But finally, I got to the point where I'm like, I'll do this. I'll go straight commission.
Yeah.
Door to door. And people are like, door to door doesn't work. No one will buy anything from a door knocker. Why would you? That's not going to work. Finally, this guy named Daryl Ennis in Sacramento said, Todd, you're telling me, and I talked to him like 5 times because he was cool. Like, he'd at least talk to me.
Yeah.
He said, you're telling me that you're going to come work here. And I had like 10 friends that wanted to come with me if I did it. You're going to come here, and if you knock doors for an entire week and don't make a sale, I pay you $0. And he's like, I said, that's exactly right. I said, you only pay me, and we're going to work out the commissions if I make a sale and it gets serviced.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, that's a no-brainer, I think. Come out and meet with me. Drove out there, met with them, did a handshake deal. I ended up going down to La Jolla, California the next week to meet with his bosses. Little did I know that Terminex International was a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah.
You didn't know who they were. You couldn't Google them.
Yeah.
Go down there, and they're in this high-rise, and they all have these monogrammed, shirts and suits. And I'm like, like this. And we struck a deal, handshake, no contract. And I negotiated a rate and an override to pay the guys working with me.
Yeah.
We ended up starting in Arizona. And again, look, part of what I would say is just me thinking about this. And if anyone's listening, like, a lot of people want to do things. They talk about it. Like, I'm going to do this. I want this. I want to end up like this. I want to be able to, achieve this in life. But what they don't understand is life only responds to effort.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't respond to wants and needs. And, it's great to have what do they call the pictures on the wall? Like
a dream board or whatever.
Board. It only responds to that if you put the effort in.
Yeah.
Like, it only responds to that.
Yeah.
So I was willing to do anything, no matter what, to succeed. Now, when I say anything, within the bounds of the law, and I've always, I've always tried to do it the right way. Not that I've
Absolutely
not made some mistakes along the way, but I go to Arizona. I have no money, and my mom, I needed to be able to buy food for the people working for me. We started in Arizona. My friend Danny Barney's dad let us stay in a trailer. It was south of Mesa, single wide trailer. No, this is no exaggeration.
With you and 10 other dudes?
Me and 10 other dudes. No electricity, no running water. There was a
perfect.
place to put we had sleeping bags. This is Arizona. Who's willing to start a business and sleep with no AC, no lights, no running water, starting your company? Like,
in 110 degrees at night.
Yeah, at night.
That's amazing.
Like, not very many people, but I didn't care. Like, I had singular focus on success. Like, I didn't care. Now, I didn't know how to sell pest control. None of us did. So what we did is we went at 9 a.m. till 9 p.m, 6 days a week. And we knocked on people's doors and literally said, do you want pest control? No. Thank you. Shut the door. Until finally a few of us figured out, hey, maybe if you show them the spider webs on their porch, that there's spiders crawling, we just started to discover how to sell. I didn't know how to sell.
Yeah.
But I knew how to talk to people, and I knew how to work hard.
Yeah.
That summer, we finish up, and I ended up making $80,000. Now, I didn't have a corporation at that time, and they paid me through their payroll. I made $80,000 after taxes, summer 1, 1992. $80,000. So I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if there may be a few people that worked harder than me in that period of time, but I really doubt it.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe over the 30-year career I had, not too many people worked there. I read about Elon Musk. He works ridiculous hours, but if you want something out of life, you have to give it everything you have. Like it isn't like spurts of energy that most people think you can do to have high levels of success. And I'm not talking about financial success as the ultimate, measuring stick, but any sort of success, you have to have the ability to have it on and leave it on.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you don't falter at times, but $80,000 summer of 92 is like $1 million now.
Yeah.
Summer one.
Yeah.
No training. So that was and I was actually not going to do it again. I was like, I'm done. I had enough money to finish school, pay for all my school tuition, whatever, and I wouldn't have to work again. Thinking, I thought I was going to go the whole school route.
Yeah.
But my mission president derailed me on that.
Yeah.
So he's like, no, school's not for you. You have something here. So
that's crazy. Yeah. So then you continue to do that because what is now Vivint or Apex in the beginning was 99.
Yeah.
So from 92 to 99, you continue to do that every summer.
That's right. Pest control. And it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And a couple of other, I think are important facts. So I think about things this way. And again, most people don't, they just don't.
Mm-hmm.
And you either do or you don't, and if you can't change, you can't change. But what do most people do when they make $80,000? Back in 92,
yeah.
What kind of a car are they buying?
Very nice. I mean, they look like they made $80,000.
They look like they made $200,000 and they made 80, because that's how financing
true.
works. You level up with financing.
Yeah.
I bought a $3,500 clapped out Jeep that was a salvage title for $3,500, paid cash for it. And negotiated. The guy wanted $5,000. I paid $3,500 for it. And I drove that thing for like 4 more years. I went, what house did I buy? What boat did I buy? None. I went back to the same house I lived in before. My rent was $187 a month. I didn't spend a dime. I then went the next summer with 110 sales reps. I put every penny I had back into the business, and I got Terminex to lend me $1 million. And I'm 23 years old at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They lent me $1 million, and the only asset I had was my title to my Jeep, and they took it as collateral. Which I'm
for
like,
$1 million.
And even me at that point, I'm like, is this a clown show or what? Like you understand this is only worth $3,500. Literally took lien against my Jeep.
That's amazing.
Okay. But I had to have that money paid back by August. Borrowed it at the start of the month, like January, and had to have it paid back in August.
So you borrowed that for housing, all that,
travel, everything. Yep. for my teams, and I'd always have it paid back by January. My rent on my office building was $400 a month. I had folding. So do you guys have folding tables and chairs? No, you don't. You have a nice table, nice. But look, I wasn't about being fancy and showing off. Like I was there. I wanted a real company.
Yeah.
I wanted a big, substantial company. And I knew that wasting money on frilly things that didn't matter weren't going to make that happen for me. So it was folding tables and chairs, cheap rent. I did most of the work myself, and I worked from 7 a.m. till 2 a.m, like 6 days a week. So, none of it was handed to me. I can assure you of that.
Yeah.
Now there were a lot of incredible people I was surrounded by that helped me get it done. It wasn't on my own.
Absolutely. So then fast forwarding through that, 92 to 99, that's what you did. Then you went and founded
Liquid Death
sponsor. Then you went and founded Apex at the time, right? Which is now Vivint, in 99. So that's been up and running, dominating since 99.
Yeah.
Like that's my employer right now, obviously. And most people that are a big fan of the show, they either work for Vivint or are extremely familiar with Vivint.
Yeah.
So that process was a crazy process. You took Vivint from literally zero. You were a
99. We lost 180,000. Lost, and by the way, I'd been making really good money in pest control.
Yeah.
owned the whole company to a point. And then I brought on this guy, Keith Nellison. We owned the whole thing. We made money. I just, no disrespect to anyone that's listening that does pest control. I didn't think that it was a great service for the money that was being charged.
Yeah.
I didn't want to build my legacy, running a pest control company.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't what I was about.
Yeah.
So wholesale changed and, went into the residential security space and lost money year one and fully dropped doing pest control altogether. I didn't, even though I'd made great money doing it, didn't want to have that be my legacy.
Yeah.
So 99 started, and the craziness starts then.
Yeah.
We started as a dealer with ADT and started doing really well. We went from, I think we did 800 installs in 99 to, I think we did, 12,000 year 3 installs, but ADT had financial problems. They were owned by Tyco, and they were a public company and they had problems. They cut their dealer program off. So we had to switch to Monotronics. This company called Monotronics was a garbage company. It still are. Sorry. But, they just are. And so we're scaling super fast. And, the one thing I'll say is, Vivint, when we say we're going to do something, we do it.
Yeah.
That doesn't, whether it's someone we're working with or for people that work with us or for us, we do it. And we told Monotronics we were going to do 40,000 installs that summer. And it was summer of 2004 or 5. And we did more than that. Well, they only scaled up operationally for like 10,000 installs. We buried them. They were billing customers that weren't being monitored. It was horrible.
Yeah.
So that was the
time. You overloaded them.
Overloaded them. I'm like, you know what? I am tired of depending on other companies giving bad service to the customers that we're promising good service to. So we're starting our own thing. We're going to start our own monitoring station. We're going to start installing and long-term servicing our own customer base. That was it. I was like, I'm done. No matter what, we're going to build a company here.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. As always, it was a blast for me. I hope you got something out of this. If you got something out of this video of value, share this with a friend, and please go show your love. We're on all streaming platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Any ratings, comments, likes, shares, they go a very long way, and they make it so I can keep doing these things for you, and I would appreciate it greatly. So please go share with a friend. Until next time.